From our This Really Takes the Cake file, Jack Phillips, a Colorado baker, is in trouble for his craft yet again. After winning a ruling at the Supreme Court that partially upheld his right to refuse to bake a wedding cake for a same-sex couple, Jack is now having to sue the state of Colorado because they're trying to force him to bake a cake to celebrate gender transition, where a biological female identifies as male or vice versa. Now, that's a horse of a different color. I'm speaking of the lawsuit, not the person who wants the cake. Mr. Phillips claims the state of Colorado is on a crusade to crush him and to pressure him into mediation over his refusal to bake the gender transition cake because of his religious beliefs. Autumn Scardina, who filed a Colorado complaint against Jack Phillips, states that he refused her request for a gender transition cake back in 2017. She's represented by her brother, Todd Scardina, whose legal services website states this, and I quote, "We take great pride in taking on employers who discriminate against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people and serving them their just desserts," end quote. Phillips' counter lawsuit cites his belief that the status of being male or female is given by God. It's biologically determined, not determined by perceptions or feelings, and cannot be chosen or changed. Phillips is represented in the case by the Alliance Defending Freedom. Let's pray that Jack Phillips is allowed to practice his faith and his cake artistry without being a target for destruction. Because if not, what's next? Forcing a kosher deli to serve bacon-wrapped shrimp? Or maybe a vegan who owns a vegan restaurant is going to be required to serve ribeye steaks? That'd be my kind of vegan restaurant, honestly. Oh well, Twitter has followed Facebook by blocking a campaign ad for a Republican congressional candidate in California. She's a female and from Cambodia. She shares the terrible story of the Pol Pot regime and his killing of countless people, but how this miracle happened with her father and her mother.
In Cambodia, under Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge, being young and single often meant a gruesome life and likely death. They approached my father, and in order to save his life, he said he was about to be married. They asked him, to whom? He pointed to the prettiest girl that he saw, having never spoken to her before. The soldiers approached her, and she said yes. They got married the very next day. 41 years later, they're still the happiest couple I know. Great things can come from great adversity.
That's one of the most powerful stories I've ever heard. It's beautiful. Now, Facebook eventually admitted the video was not, quote, shocking, disrespectful, or sensational, unquote. Twitter believes great things can come from adversity, except when they are the adverse ones. Twitter describes Mrs. Hing's ad as obscene. Think about that. Hing's campaign contacted Twitter to be sure the censoring of the ad was not an error. Twitter's response? Sending the same message to her with obscene in bold. Friends, social media companies have been intentionally targeting and shutting down a lot of conservative people on their services. That is a fact that I've experienced myself. But let me say that if elected, Elizabeth Hing promises to correct bias censorship in social media services. She plans to work for legal internet transparency so that every American has a chance to be heard. And let me tell you, Facebook and Twitter, there ain't no censoring a federal fairness law. I hope you know that. Finally, from our fine arts file, we've all had those neighbors who wouldn't stop their dog from barking. Well, one woman in Slovakia decided that she would fight fire with opera. The disgruntled lady, identified only as Eva, began to crank up Verdi's La Traviata to drown out the incessant barking of the neighbor's dog. But that was in 2002, 16 years ago. Oh, did I mention that she doesn't play the entire opera, only a 4-minute aria sung by Placido Domingo from sunrise to sunset as loud as she can? She's done it for over 5,500 days. A Hungarian news site recently reported that Eva was arrested in her hometown of Stavovo on charges of harassment and malicious persecution. I love Placido Domingo, one neighbor told Hungarian news site index.hu, but not like this. Another resident declared, the whole street is suffering. The neighbor's dog allegedly said, quote, the opera ain't over until the fat lady sings. And she's now singing like a mockingbird. Now, I might just raise a couple of questions. One, would you wait 16 years to call the cops? Those are some tolerant people. Here's the second one. Why didn't Eva just report the disturbance of the neighbor's dog? And third, what kind of dog did the neighbor have that outlived 16 years of opera? So with respect to Eva, I'll bet she's really a cat person. Well, Eva has been remanded in custody and according to local media could face up to 3 years in jail if convicted. And by the way, La Traviata translates to the fallen woman. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the fact that we read the news so you don't have to.